The series kicks off with a gathering of 5 students in a room, a duo of guys and a trio of girls. Having consumed a can of alcohol, Jemting rises from his seat and declares his intention to fetch more beer. Upon reaching the door, he steals a fleeting glance at a girl on the sofa, reciprocated before he departs. While making his way out, Jemting discloses his wish that she might volunteer to accompany him. To his surprise, as he exits, a female voice calls out and he turns around to find the girl from the sofa catching up. She explains her need for ice cream, using it as a reason to tag along. This girl, Lei Xia, happens to be a year senior to Jemting. He playfully advises her to indulge in a sizable bowl of ice cream to gain some weight and deflect unwanted attention. Xia, with a teasing smile, calls him a mischievous boy. Internally, Jemting confesses to harboring a crush on Xia, a sentiment he has yet to disclose to her. The pair intertwine their fingers as they stroll down to the store. Out of the blue, Xia guides Jemting into a shadowy corner, pressing him against the wall before leaning in for a kiss. Continuing their walk afterward, Jemting reminisces about the genesis of their acquaintance. Jemting is observed on a bus returning to school post-holidays when he receives a text from Zhu, his high school crush. Realizing she's inviting him to hang out, he agrees to the rendezvous. Deciding he needs a wardrobe change, Jemting disembarks at his stop and hurries home. At the house's entrance, he encounters a girl casually leaning against the wall, flicking a letter on and off repeatedly. Pondering whether she's waiting for someone, he unlocks the gate but ultimately dismisses her as peculiar and proceeds inside. On his way out in a new outfit, Jemting finds her still by the wall. Recognizing a faint familiarity in her face, he inquires if they've crossed paths before, only to be met with her indifference. Jemting strides away, but halts abruptly as a realization dawns on him. The girl is Xia from Dream Suite, the celebrity his friend Guju is fervently fixated on. He pivots and queries if she is Xia, yet she advances menacingly, swiftly rushing at him with a lighter in hand, creating the illusion of a slashing motion across his face. In a split second, it becomes apparent that she had deactivated her lighter at the last possible moment. Taken aback, Jemting staggers backward, but Xia chuckles at his bewilderment, mockingly branding him slow for failing to dodge her feigned attack. Threatening to involve the police, Jemting is met with Xia's counteraccusation of being a stalker, challenging him to make the call. Quick to defuse the tension, Jemting offers an immediate apology, clarifying that he is not a stalker. In an attempt to lighten the mood, he spontaneously sings and dances to one of her songs before awkwardly hurrying off to meet Zhu. Finding Zhu outside the restaurant, braving the cold with stomping feet, Jemting recounts his earlier encounter. They enter together, engaging in conversation, and Jemting, attempting to gauge her relationship status, inquires if she has a boyfriend, eliciting a defensive response from Zhu. In an attempt to defuse the tension, Jemting suggests the idea of hanging out at his place later. Following dinner, Jemting gallantly drapes his scarf around Zhu's neck, eliciting her gratitude. Seizing the opportunity, he proposes meeting up the next day under the pretext of returning the scarf. Zhu responds with a smile, and they part ways. Upon arriving home, Jemting is taken aback to find Xia still braving the cold outside. Zhu, cautioning him, insists on keeping Xia's identity and whereabouts confidential, sternly threatening repercussions if he reveals anything. After the warning, Xia retreats indoors, and as Jemting enters the house, he discovers her unconscious on the floor. Alarmed, he rushes to her side and promptly dials 911. The following morning, Jemting is awakened by persistent doorbell ringing. Upon opening the door, he is greeted by Xia bearing food and an offer to share breakfast. Politely declining, Jemting fibs about having already eaten and promptly closes the door in her face. While in class, Jemting sends a text to Xio proposing a meetup, but she replies that she's occupied. Curious classmates sneak glances at his phone, teasing him about being rejected, but Jemting attempts to set the record straight. Meanwhile, Zhu is present in her classroom, apparently unoccupied, having fabricated an excuse to avoid meeting Jemting. Later, Jemting heads home from school, growing concerned about not having seen Zhu for a week. Suddenly, Xia appears at his side, inquiring about his day, but he brushes her off, entering his home while repeatedly expressing frustration about nobody being nice to him for no reason. As days pass, it starts to feel like Xia is shadowing Jemting, appearing everywhere he goes. Despite her attempts to engage in conversation, he consistently ignores her. Eventually, Xia seeks out Jemting in his lecture hall, drawing stares from everyone as she approaches him. Once at his side, Jemting takes her hand and leads her out of the hall. Curious, he questions how she found him, and she explains that she overheard him mentioning his name and apartment. Jemting makes it clear that he isn't romantically interested in her and already has someone special in his heart. She chuckles, assuring him that she doesn't view him in that way either. Her sole desire is friendship because she feels lonely and lacks companionship. She discloses that she's rented the entire floor of the apartment. Curiosity piqued, she questions if he knows the reason for her suspension, explaining that it hinders her from forming connections. She expresses a genuine effort to change herself. Jungting, taking her number, suggests they have dinner together at a later date. Walking home from school, he queries whether he should address her as sis. She encourages a more casual approach, and when he calls her by name, Xia, she surprises him by placing a finger on his lips. As they continue walking, the surrounding people can't help but compliment her beauty. Xia proposes having dinner together, but he reveals he has plans to attend a party that night. Later, she confides in Jutong that when they develop a close friendship, she hopes neither of them falls in love with the other. At the party, Jutong declines the offer of beer. A senior questions if Xia is his girlfriend, but he clarifies that she's just his neighbor. In an attempt to extract Ste's number, the senior coaxes Juntang into consuming a substantial amount of alcohol, oblivious to the fact that Juntang is not easily intoxicated. During this, Xia calls him, and when he answers, he humorously addresses her as Miss Smasherhead. She questions if he's drunk, and he insists it's impossible. Stepping outside the bar while on the call, the senior appears suddenly beside him, seizing Juntang's phone and engaging in conversation with Xia. In their struggle for the phone, Xia's call is accidentally disconnected. The senior ends up vomiting by the roadside, and Juntang, patting his back, is joined by Xia with a bottle of alcohol in hand. The senior, attempting to charm her, is rebuffed, and she takes Juntang's hand, pulling him along. Another senior rushes toward them, seizing Juntang's other hand. Xia and the senior start pulling Juntang in opposite directions, but the tussle halts abruptly as Xia swings the bottle towards the senior's face. The senior challenges Xia to strike him, but Juntang swiftly intervenes. He steps between them, taking the wine bottle from Xia and takes a swig before persuading his senior to finish the rest. The senior obliges, consuming the remaining contents. As he looks up after finishing, he realizes Xia and Juntang have vanished. Xia and Juntang sprint down the road, eventually making a pit stop to catch their breath. Juntang reproaches Xia for attempting to use a bottle to harm someone, and she unexpectedly bursts into tears. She confides that trouble seems to follow her no matter how hard she tries to avoid it. Juntang, sensing a propensity for violence, questions her about it, but Xia insists it's a secret. He assures her of his support during crucial times and pledges to spend more time with her. Xia smiles, disclosing that she bought the alcohol for them to share. Curious, Juntang inquires about how she found him, and she points to posters on the wall as they walk. Among them, he notices a back-to-school poster for the College of Literature, which happens to be Zhu's apartment. Rushing towards the venue with hopes of finding her, he spots her outside, and they exchange waves. However, her expression changes suddenly upon seeing someone behind him. Recognizing Xia, she calls out her name, capturing everyone's attention. Zhu approaches Xia, introducing herself, and murmurs begin to circulate about Xiaoya's rumored scandal. In response, Xia lashes out at Zhu, labeling her a skank, and walks away. Zhu and Juntang depart together, but with no transportation available due to the late hour, they find themselves stranded. Zhu, facing the dilemma of angry parents if she stays out, reluctantly agrees to spend the night at Juntang's apartment. Back at the apartment, both Zhu and Juntang implore Xia to deceive Yu's parents by posing as her friend and informing them she'll be spending the night at Xia's place. Initially hesitant, Xia eventually agrees to help Yu. She also invites her to spend the night, and the three end up drinking together. In their inebriated state, the girls become friends, and Xia steps outside for some fresh air. Observing that she is lightly dressed, Juntang takes off his sweatshirt and brings it to her. Juntang is taken aback to find Xia observing him, but she greets him with a smile and extends an invitation to share takeout. A month later, Juntang, Xia, and Zhu venture out to see cherry blossoms, and Xia, filled with excitement, mentions not having seen them in a long while. While Xia gets captivated by the blossoms, Juntang shares with Zhu that his classmates are inquiring about his relationship status, but she remains silent. They catch up with Xia, capturing some pictures, but eventually, Xia and Juntang escort Zhu back to her school. Later, Juntang suggests visiting the library together, but Zhu declines, expressing the belief that they should read separately due to their different majors. Unsettled by Zhu's rejection, Juntang appears unhappy, a sentiment Xia notices on their way home. In an attempt to lift his spirits, she shows him a photo she took of Zhu that day. Seeing the picture, he smiles and requests her to share the images on their group chat. Xia playfully asks if he likes Zhu so much, initially denying it before walking away. However, he returns, questioning if his feelings are too obvious, acknowledging that he knows she isn't interested in him, and then walking away. Later, Zhu returns Juntang's scarf, and a classmate reveals it had been on Zhu's table for days. Zhu awkwardly brushes off Xia, and they leave the scene together. As time passes, Zhu consistently declines Juntang's invitations to hang out, only relenting when Juntang includes Xia in the plans. Juntang confides in Xia that Zhu is his first love, even though he recognizes she doesn't share the same romantic feelings. Later, Yun, a friend of Juntang's, invites him to a gathering involving 3 girls and 3 boys. Shea unexpectedly enters Jumtang's room and gives him a makeover, stating her intention is to make him look his best for the gathering and to gauge his attractiveness. Shea, with a touch of humor, warns him against having a girlfriend, asserting that it would disrupt their friendship. When Jumtang insists it won't change anything, she teases him, noting that friends don't hold hands. Jumtang arrives fashionably late to the party, catching the eye of a red-haired girl who immediately takes a liking to him. The other two girls playfully apply lipstick to his lips for fun, and they capture the moment with a Polaroid photo. Upon seeing the Polaroid, Jumtang realizes he's wearing the same color of lipstick as Xie. During the party, he's coerced into singing a karaoke song, and the red-haired girl observes him, contemplating whether to make a move. As the festivities progress, Jumtang notices an earring on the floor, realizing it belongs to the red-haired girl. He returns it to her, sparking a brief conversation about piercings. Later, the group is paired off into 3 couples for a game of wedlock wine. Jumtang ends up with the red-haired girl, Ruini. Despite the bottle not stopping on him for the first 3 rounds, it finally does on the 4th attempt. Jumtang and Ruini are tasked with sharing a kiss, and although they both watch awkwardly, Ruini eventually downs a glass of alcohol and leans in for a kiss. Meanwhile, Shea struggles in bed, wondering about Jumtang's activities. Ruini reflects on how she had given up on love before attending the gathering, while Shea had hoped to meet someone new to help her move on from a past breakup. As Shea attempts to kiss Jumtang, she becomes nervous and leans back without going through with it. Gaining confidence, Ruini downs another glass of alcohol and moves in for a kiss, but Jumtang places his finger against her lips. He confesses that he hasn't had his first kiss yet and doesn't want it to be remembered as a result of a senior during Truth or Dare, fearing it would make him look pathetic. The group laughs at his revelation, deciding that he should sing instead. After the party, Ruani, feeling a bit tipsy, expresses the desire to go home. Jumtang offers to walk her home, and they leave together. During their walk, Jumtang opens up about his unrequited love and mentions that persistence in love doesn't always lead to success. This prompts Ruani to share details about her breakup, revealing that her ex-boyfriend ended things after repeating the senior class in high school for 3 consecutive years. As they converse, Jumtang notices Ruani's tears, but when asked, she insists that she isn't crying. He walks up to her, gently brushing her hair from her face, realizing the emotional impact of her story. As Jumtang walks away after dropping Ruani off, he contemplates whether Shea's hair feels the same way as Ruani's, but he promptly dismisses the thought. While heading back to his apartment, he considers texting Shea but decides to send a voice note instead. Just as he is about to, his phone rings. Quickly returning home and calling out Shea's name, he finds her waiting outside. Jumtang reassures her that he had a good time and demonstrates sobriety by walking in a straight line. When Shea mentions she's been indoors all day, he shares his desire for a break from school. Later, Jumtang and Shea share laughter over how he got lipstick on his lips during the party. However, Shea becomes jealous when he mentions playing wedlock wine. While he attempts to convince her otherwise, she playfully holds his face, briefly kissing him. As she tries to pull away, Jumtang surprises her by pulling her back in for a more extended kiss. After their kiss, Xia invites him into her apartment, but Jumtang declines, saying he'll come in later. The next day, he wakes up startled, unable to shake the realization that he shared his first kiss with Xia. To clear his head, Jumtang heads to the library where he stumbles upon a poster advertising a room for rent. Curiosity piqued, Jumtang discovers that Xia is the one renting out a room. At school, he struggles to concentrate on his reading, his mind incessantly returning to the kiss with Xia. Upon returning home, Jumtang musters the courage to knock on Xia's door, inquiring about the room for rent sign. He then expresses his desire to discuss their kiss, prompting Xia to let him in. During their conversation, as Xia speaks candidly about the kiss, Jumtang falls to his knees in embarrassment. Xia is equally shocked to learn that she was his first kiss. As they sit down, Xia explains that she's renting out a room in hopes of making another friend. Jumtang suggests that they all go out with Zhu after exams, and she agrees to the plan. As Xia and Jumtang talk about hanging out, she playfully asks if she can hold his hands, and he agrees. Xia takes his hands and rests her head on his shoulder. In the following days, Jumtang finds himself startled whenever the memory of the kiss with Xia surfaces. At school, he runs into Yu and they end up walking home together. When he suggests hanging out during the weekend, Yu invites him to join her at the library. Despite following her to the library, they are assigned seats far apart. While waiting in line, a male friend of Zhu approaches her and they engage in conversation. The friend asks if Jumtang is her boyfriend, but she denies it. This angers Jumtang, realizing that Zhu has intentionally avoided hanging out with him all this time. He makes up an excuse to leave, feeling betrayed, although he acknowledges that he hasn't been entirely fair to her either, given his interactions with Xia, including the kiss. Meanwhile, Ruoni, preparing for exams, decides that she needs to overcome her breakup by becoming more social. Her first step is getting an off-campus apartment. In a flashback to their high school days, Zhu and Jumtang walk towards Zhu's house to retrieve her notebook. Along the way, Zhu reveals that she had been suspended from school, explaining her absence from classes. Upon reaching her house, Zhu's father scolds her harshly for bringing a boy home. Zhu, angered by her father's words, hurls her school bag at him, calling him embarrassing names and expressing her embarrassment to be born into his family. Zhu grabs Jumtang's hand and they run off together. When they finally stop, she apologizes for him having to witness the confrontation and asks him to forget it. Returning to the present, Xiao locates Jumtang at a cafe outside the library. She takes his hand and invites him to go somewhere with her. Xiao leads him to the rooftop where they both gaze at the night sky and the city below. Although she attempts to share the reason for bringing him there, Xiao stops mid-sentence, urging them to return to their reading instead. Xiao swiftly exits the library, confessing to Jumtang that she likes him but is afraid to confess due to circumstances that would prevent them from being together. Jumtang returns home, and the next day he wakes up to find Xia staring at him. Despite her efforts to get him out of bed, he remains unmoved, telling her to go and make other friends. Ignoring his words, Xia flips him over with his bedspread, prompting Jumtang to snatch it back and go back to bed, leaving Xia angry. Waking up in a somber mood, Jumtang is still puzzled about why Zhu took him to the rooftop. Later, Ruino visits and Xia calls Jumtang to help her move her things into the apartment. Jumtang gets out of bed and is surprised to find that the new housemate is Ruini. A flashback shows Ruino leaving the library and coming across a poster outside Jumtang and Xia's apartment in the past. Ruini knocks on the door and Xia answers, immediately captivating her with her beauty. Xia gives her a tour of the apartment, mentioning the condition that she has a male neighbor upstairs who will be around a lot. While exploring Xia's walk-in closet, Ruini is astonished by the numerous designer bags and dresses. Xia notices her amazement and generously offers her some of the bags. Ruini, momentarily lost in the luxury, is brought back to reality when she realizes that Jumtang is the male housemate mentioned by Xia. Despite Jumtang's attempts to talk to her, Ruini treats him coldly, leaving him puzzled. Suddenly, he remembers that he forgot to text her after their last encounter. After Ruini settles in, they all go out for dinner, enjoying some alcohol. Later, Xia steps outside for some fresh air, and Jumtang and Ruoni reconcile their differences. As they leave the restaurant, they discuss the recent get-together, unaware that Xia can overhear them. In his intoxicated state, Jumtang inadvertently confesses that he's falling in love with Ruini, thinking he's talking to Xia. Misunderstanding, Ruoni assumes he is interested in her. After collapsing, Jumtang falls onto Ruoni, prompting Xia to rush forward. Once Xia tucks him into bed, she questions if he's happy now, but he seems confused. Xia asks him to make room, sitting down beside him. She proposes officially dating, but Jumtang refuses, thinking that Xia is merely playing with him. Despite Xia's attempts to convince him otherwise, Jumtang remains fixated on why Zhu took him to the rooftop earlier. Realizing Jumtang's lack of interest, Xia playfully calls him a dummy and lies back down. The next morning, Zhengting wakes up before Xia and contemplates sneaking out. However, Xia wakes up and stops him, noting that nothing happened between them. They leave together, and as they do, Xia unexpectedly turns around, rubbing his jaw to feel his beard. Someone witnesses this, shocked to see them together overnight. Junding searches for Xia on the internet, discovering her portrayal as a violent person. He calls Guizhu, expressing anger that Jumtang told his mom about the incident. Chang'an questions if Guizhu is still a fan of Lei Xia, to which he claims she's just a friend they hang out with. Guizhu doesn't believe him, stating he's no longer a fan of Xia, and ends the call. Deciding to stop looking her up, Zhang Ang moves on. Guizhu visits Zhang Ang, reluctantly complying because his mom made him. Concerned that things might escalate if Guizhu meets Xia, Jumtang meets him at the gate, takes the bag, and promptly shuts the door in his face. Furious, Guizhu decides to spy on him and is surprised to see Xia. He approaches her immediately, attempting to take a photo, but she kicks him out of the house. Despite being kicked out, Guizhu sneaks in again the next day, and Jumtang repeatedly kicks him out. However, he persists until he finally meets Xia. Offering her tuna, she accepts. Xia asks Guizhu to stay away from her, which angers him. In a heated exchange, he accuses her of pretending. Zhengting rushes out, standing between them, and asks Guizhu to leave. A scuffle ensues, with Guizhu pushing Zhengting away. In the aftermath, Guizhu renounces their friendship and walks away, leaving Jumtang angered. However, when he turns around, he finds Xia visibly shaken. Jumtang consoles Xia and asks her on a date. Later, they are seen walking towards the school library together. Jumtang and Xiao share a laugh about how Gu Xiao has been showing up at Jumtang's doorstep for the past few weeks, even though Xia has refused to see him each time. After Xiao picks up some books at the library, they are about to descend a flight of stairs when Xiao loses her footing. Jumtang catches her at the last minute, leading to an awkward situation. Noticing that Xia is visibly flustered, Jumtang eases the tension by picking up her books. As Jumtang gathers a couple of books, he is surprised when Sia calls out to him and asks if he could accompany her on Cultural Festival Day. Sia reveals that she will be working as a patrol and setting up tents for the crowd. Initially hesitant, Jumtang agrees after noticing the blush on Sia's face. He agrees to accompany her, secretly hoping that she feels the same way about him.